Selectmen meeting. Would you please rise and join me in the salute to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Before we open with the public hearing, let me introduce the board to you. To my far left is Laurie Schwed, board member, Glenn Koppelman, board member and vice chair. I'm Ellie Alessio, your chair. To my right is Chuck Hart, board member, and Peter Bakey, board member. Susan Eyre is not with us this evening, but she's listening avidly from home, I'm sure. The first item of business is a public hearing, and I'm going to open that public hearing at 6:32. I don't know if we need to record. Oh no, we don't have to. She'll catch it on the thing. Yep. And this hearing will be on whether to declare the Class 6 portion of Tucker Road as an emergency lane per RSA 231-59A Roman numeral 2, in order to allow the town to conduct repairs as needed to keep the lane passable by emergency vehicles. I have a copy of the RSA if anyone wanted to see that. And do we have anyone that'd like to speak in support of the adoption of this? Yep. Ernie Landry from the Heritage Commission and Chief Graham Pellerin, Fire Chief. Gentlemen, welcome. Please turn on your mic.
Actually, I'm representing SELT, not the Heritage
SELT,
Commission.
okay, all right. Southeast Land Trust, for those at home that don't know.
Myself even, who knows? Basically, we've worked with Chief Pellerin, SELT has with Chief Pellerin over the past few years to map out all the trails out on the Tucker French property, which is accessed by Tucker Road, off of North Road. And we did that so that we could give him a map so that he would know which trails were accessible to which types of vehicles when he did an emergency rescue. And so recently, the trail from North Road up to the Tucker property, the Tucker Road from North Road to Tucker property, now has a really big depression in it, which actually makes it a little difficult for emergency vehicles to go up to the gate at which the fire department does a lot of the rescues, because that gate is right at the center of the property. And so most of the rescues come from there. So in discussing it with Chief Pellerin, we thought it might be good to see if it would be appropriate to have the board determine that portion of Tucker Road to be an emergency lane so that the ambulances can get up there easily. And if it's designated as an emergency lane, then the town can actually do some work to take care of that big depression that's there. And so that was the purpose of this.
Thank you. Yeah. Chief Pellerin?
Good evening. So, I have a great relationship with SELT. They keyed all their gates alike and gave us keys for their gates so that we could have access in emergency. Again, with the maps is vital for an emergency when it happens. We know exactly where we can get an ATV, a forestry truck, or like a four-wheeler, or just a walking path. The trailhead into off of North Road that he's speaking of, we've been there in the past 3 years. We've been there 4 times with the ambulance for either a lost hiker or an injured hiker. Speaking with Greg Senko from the New Hampshire, from the Kingston Trails Association, I forget their exact name, but I think it's probably easier if we just take each individual on a case-by-case basis, meaning instead of just looking at every road, Class 6 road or trail that leads into a trailhead and deeming them all emergency access, because they really are all emergency access, that we just, when an issue arose, then we would just take that, have this hearing and see if you would deem it as emergency access. So I speak in favor of it. I think it's the trail system that's out there is vast, and a lot of trails lead right there. So that's a good spot for us to kind of set up a home base and respond from there.
Okay, thank you.
Just a comment.
Sure.
Ellie. just a point of information that, should we vote to declare it an emergency lane, it allows the town then to maintain that Class 6 road, which typically the town doesn't maintain Class 6 roads. So just a consideration that obviously if we're going to be maintaining it, it's going to cost the town money to do that. Again, it's a cost-benefit trade-off, and if it's a wise thing to do, then it's probably a wise expenditure of funds. But it's probably why it requires a public hearing, because funds will be expended where normally they wouldn't be on a Class 6 road.
And I had received a call earlier today from one of the abutters at that end of the road where the emergency lane area would be fixed, and she was concerned that we were fixing the road to allow more traffic through, and I said, no, that's not the case. That the issue was the ability to have, should we need to have an emergency vehicle go to that trailhead, you needed an area for the fire truck to be able to turn around, and that's the purpose of us adopting that section of the road for maintenance by the town, and not so that emergency vehicles can get through to that point. Hold on. Okay, go ahead, Peter, and then I'll open it up to the public.
Right. So the comment I would have is that respect to Glenn. I don't believe the traffic on that property is as bad in the winter months. I've had quite a bit to do with that property out there, and they've never plowed it. I think it's during the summertime, they don't plow that road. To this day, they don't. They stop right here. Who does? Salt. Usually Salt will go out and they'll take care of their own parking lot, like on 107. Yep. And they'll plow their trailhead, but that road is not been plowed. It stops right at the end. They plow that first driveway on the right. Sure. They don't plow that in the wintertime. Sure. And I don't know if the traffic is that heavy out there. So as far as the cost of plowing that road, because we're going to fix that, actually that culvert that goes under that road and that depression. And as far as your point, Ellie, they're not making the turnaround bigger to turn around a fire truck. It's just they have a small parking lot by a kiosk where an ambulance can get up there and turn around for a staging area. We're just talking about a culvert that goes across the road in the lower end. I don't think, in my personal opinion, I don't think that's going to regulate that we're going to be maintaining and plowing that road in the winter months. It costs the town money.
Yeah, and to be clear, I wasn't saying that to be speaking against it. I was just saying that it's one of the consequences, should we decide to do this, is that there will be some cost to it. And it won't be just for plowing, it'll be for maintaining it, for keeping the surface and keeping it drained proper and all of that. And it's, it's probably not a huge amount of money, but just want to make sure we're all aware that a vote to do this has a cost associated with it. But I do think it's a good idea to do it.
Comments from the audience. Why don't you come forward and please state your name. Have a seat and give us your name and address, please.
Appreciate it. Hi, my name's Erin Ferrari. I'm here with my husband, Jim, and we live on Tucker Road.
Oh, okay.
And so when you designate the emergency lane in the section that you're speaking of, I don't think you can just say this section. So if you're going to designate Tucker Road in writing as an emergency lane, that's really, Ernie, from gate 3 all the way up to gate 4 and 5, right? No. Okay, so if you can designate it as that end, that'd be terrific. Otherwise, there's a significant amount of damage. I mean, I walked from Thorn Road all the way to North Road today, just so I could come here. And I talked to neighbors too. And, having an emergency access for people when they have an emergency is great. You could get an F-250 easily from North Road down to gate 4 and 5 right now. It's probably somebody out there right now. But once you pass gate 4 at the Blake's property, there's a stream and a culvert, and my concern is that that whole thing is going to start to get maintained by the town, which is so significant of a cost. There's a lot of water. So anyway, I'm just trying to make comment, and Tucker Road last year, a couple years ago, 2 years ago, was designated, not designated in writing, but a dead-end sign was put on the Thorn Road side of Tucker Road, right? Because once you get past our house, the plow stops there and has for 25 years. So there's a big pile of debris. After that, there's also another culvert and our pond and wetland on the left. So that would be really difficult and expensive to either fix or maintain to get any emergency vehicle on that end. The other end's way better. I mean, on foot, in a truck, ATV, anything. You've been down there, so you know, you've turned around there. But anyway, so those are my comments, is I think if you can't designate one end of it as being emergency lane, you're kind of going to be on the hook for the whole thing being an emergency lane. And I don't understand, maybe somebody can help me, that from gate 3 to gate 4 and 5, CELT owns both sides of that road. Why doesn't CELT just designate that middle road as, you know, why does the town maintain it at all?
Yes,
Please.
please.
You want this one back, Ernie?
No, it's okay.
My understanding is, well, I know that the south portion of Tucker Road from the gate at CELT, gate 4 and 5 at CELT, down to North Road is a Class 6 road. From gates 4 and 5 going north up to gate 3, which is near Aaron and Jim's house, is a Class 8 trail, which is different than a Class 6 road. So the town, I don't think the town really can maintain a Class 8 trail. I'm not sure of that, but I don't think they can. So you have a Class 6 road, you have a Class 8 trail, and then my belief a couple of years ago was that the northern part of Tucker Road was Class 5.
Right, the Beans put their house, yeah.
So you got a road that's a Class 6, a Class 8 trail, and a Class 5. Town maintains Class 5 roads anyway. They can maintain a Class 6 if it's designated as an emergency lane, but I'm not sure that they can maintain a Class 8 trail, and I'm not sure they'd want to, because
Doesn't sound like it.
it's totally on CELT property.
It's a trail.
And I would not expect anybody to ask to have that be maintained, because
It's a
that
bottomless
part of it is a
pit.
horror show, to be honest
Well,
with
water,
you.
yeah.
Yeah,
So the RSA allows for designating a portion of a Class 6
Yes.
road.
Okay, so it can be a
It
portion.
can be a portion, and it says so in the RSA. So
couldn't
if,
find it.
if that's where we're going with this, we're going to need clear definition of where exactly we're talking about
gates,
to do the designation.
right.
Got it.
So that we're clear in the minutes as to what part is strictly a landing area.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So those are my comments. I mean, if it's that end of the road, I don't know that we can oppose it, and I think that having emergency access is great. I just would caution at the cost, because it's wet down there.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, further comments? Do we need to delay the decision until we have the measurements? Oh, Richard, I'm sorry. Come on up, Rick.
I had planned to speak.
State your name and address, please.
I'm Rick Russman, and
Beach Drive.
I just, hearing this, I mean, this is not rocket science. I mean, we ought to just put a culvert in there and call it good. I mean, this is not that one small section where the culvert needs to be. That's it. And outside you put the culvert in there, vehicles are gonna get, we have all kinds of roads all over Kingston, and Peter knows this as well as anybody, that you can get there with a gator or what have you if you have to get there, and the fire department will get there, but I don't think trying to open this up to make it a road that the town's gonna somehow maintain. I think it's just put a culvert in and call it good. I hope that's all you're going to do.
Could we?
Mr.
I was gonna-
Coombs.
There we go. That's the right answer.
So this designation is typically a one-off where you would do emergency work on a Class 6 road. We have a $3,000 line item every year for Class 6 maintenance, and it's to keep the road from falling in such disrepair that it isn't a road anymore. It becomes what the trail part has become. So this is, you can make the motion that at the direction of the fire chief or whoever, when he feels that it's gotten to a point where it's not passable by his equipment, he can work with the road agent or the DPW to perform such maintenance as to make it accessible. but it's not bringing it up to class 5 standard, it's not maintaining it as class 5 standards, it's not plowing the road, it's just simply making it passable for emergency service vehicles for the specified purpose that you put on it, which is access to the trailhead.
So to do what you're suggesting, does it require designating an emergency lane, or can we just authorize that type of repair when needed?
Yeah, so in the past, we had someone do some unauthorized work on back road that created a situation where the fire lanes could not be accessed because of the work that was done. So at that time, it was designated an emergency repair, and we were able to use our town equipment to go in there and fix it. But that was a one-off thing. It wasn't that we were going to start maintaining back road in perpetuity or anything like that. It was just that we were going to take the steps necessary to fix the road and maintain it as the standard that it was at.
So a motion to basically read that we allow the fire department to emergency repairs and the trailhead to class 6 portion of Tucker Road. Is that correct?
I would say it would be the DPW doing the work at the discretion of the fire chief as necessary to maintain access to the trailhead.
Phil, you've seen the work that needs to be done out there?
Yep.
The depression they're talking about. So I don't want to put you on the spot, but to put a culvert that you probably have in stock and a load of gravel, just to give people an idea of how much we're talking?
I would say $300 to $400.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments or questions? Okay, then I'll declare the hearing, and board members, before we close the hearing, because we can't take the motion till we come out of the hearing. Any other comments, questions? Okay, I'll declare that the hearing is open at 6:48 p.m.
I'm going to make a motion that we grant the authority under the direction and the assistance of the fire chief to fix Tucker Road to the Tucker property on the south end of Tucker Road by replacing a failed culvert, is what it is, to make it passable for an emergency vehicle to get to the trailhead and not to be maintained year-round.
And
Do we have a second?
I'll second it. So for discussion, you talked about it being at the direction of the fire chief in conjunction with DPW for getting the work done? Correct. Okay. And is the description of, is that description clear enough for where we're doing this work?
Yes.
I hate to say it like this, but if you've been out there, you'll know exactly what you're. There's only one spot in the road.
I haven't been. That's why I'm
So
asking.
you come off of North Road, there's a great big depression, there was a culvert that went under the road.
Yeah.
And that culvert has failed. So now it's just a big mud hole, and they'd have a difficult time getting an ambulance or anything else through there. So they just want to fix that culvert to continue that road. The rest of the road is in actually fairly good shape, right to that trailhead. So it's basically, I would say it's that culvert that needs to be replaced.
Okay,
That'd be
and,
my recommendation.
okay, and well, I seconded it, so just one more question for me, that the DPW director indicates that there's a line item in the DPW budget for covering emergency repairs such as this, and that's where that money would come from, for Class 6 road repair. Okay.
Okay.
I'm good.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
So, again, just for clarity, we did not declare it an emergency lane.
No, we did not.
Okay.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming for the hearing. You're welcome to stay. All right. And next, we'll have a presentation on the Kingston Trash and Recycling Program, presented by Phil Coombs, DPW Director, with the assistance from Mrs. Schwett.
We're at the year mark where we've been doing the collection center, and basically we have some decision points that we've reached. When the select board approved this, we were going to do it for a year, kind of see where we're at and decide what to do moving forward. So this is just an update on kind of where we sit with that and some other issues with relation to trash and recycling in Kingston today. So here's our agenda, and this is the goal of the Solid Waste and Recycling Committee, which, although I'm the presenter here, this is put together with the Solid Waste and Recycling Committee, who does the lion's share of the volunteering and the work regarding our trash and recycling services in town as far as future plans. So our goal is to remove as many inputs as possible into the waste stream by diverting to other sources. And this is driven by the cost that's required of that. So this is it's both environmental cost, all the good things, but that is our mission statement there. Next slide. This is the RSA, and I made the important part in big words there and highlighted it, but so each town shall either provide a facility or assure access to another approved solid waste facility for its residents. The town may choose whether to include any associated costs in its tax base, and the rest is details, but that is key as we move forward. So for clarity, that's just solid waste, not correct. So we are mostly through year 2 of our 5-year contract with Waste Management. We transitioned to a tote-based system. We were previously on recycling totes, and this last contract that started 1 January of 23, we got municipal solid waste totes. Under the new contract, recycling costs are based on market prices of the materials that are collected, and just for price point, last year the town spent $466,000 on trash collection, and then another $244,000 on recycling. The collection center was started to reduce some of those costs on 14 September of last year. So this is our contract has escalating costs, roughly of 5%. So for 2024 up there, you see that we spend just under $25,000 a month so the collection portion of the contract is just for the truck to show up in front of your house, grab the tote, and dump it. The disposal cost is the actual weight of the material that they pick up. So beyond that, there is recycling collection. So yay, it's cheaper than the trash, but that's only every other week that we do that. So, and then you'll see the tonnage for recycling is currently the average for the year thus far, because it's a market-driven number, but on average this year it's been about 132. And this has been pretty steady this year versus last year, but we still have a lot of fluctuation in the market. Additionally, we have a $947 surcharge per month that we have to pay. This is based on last year's fuel prices, so hopefully moving into next year that will be less. One of the key things to take away from this is recycling is 54% more expensive than trash to throw away, just based purely on tonnage. And then a little note there on the recycling disposal costs. Last year, the high point was $167 a ton. So it does fluctuate quite a bit. So the way this is figured is the blended value, and I apologize in advance that I'm going to throw a lot of numbers at you, but there is a breakdown that's predetermined of how much recycling is. So it's 21% cardboard, 34% mixed paper, 0.6% aluminum, and on there. Glass is the second one from the bottom, and that is, they figure that is 22% of the load, and that is a set fee that is not affected by the market. That is $65 a ton that they charge us. Everything else that is listed up there is a credit to our account. So what they figure is if we bring 10 tons of recycling in per week, then they assume that 21% of that is cardboard, 34% of it is mixed paper, and so forth. So this is the breakdown. Like I said, it's pretty steady this year. There was a lot more fluctuation last year, but even still, we don't know from month to month what the actual cost per ton is. But what you see is the set price is the processing fee and the transportation fee are the two steady parts of it per year in the contract. The blended value is figured on the previous slide, so it's the value of cardboard, the value of mixed paper, and then the cost of glass is taken out of that. And that gives us the net cost per ton, which, as I said earlier, is the average of it right now is $132 a ton. So, recycling costs were out of control last year, and there were some issues since they weren't doing curbside pickup anymore, where people were kind of getting buried in cardboard. So to address that problem, we opened the collection center down at the old state shed. We opened twice per month, basically to match up with recycling weeks from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., taking glass and cardboard, and then recently we started taking scrap metal under a charity exemption for our permit. I'll get more of that later, but this is staffed solely by volunteers and 1 to 2 DPW staff to operate equipment and be an on-site authority. Recently, we've started special events, so we did a bulky day, a paper shredding event, an e-waste event, and that was to bring people in to let them know about the site, and those have been very successful. And we've done advertising on Facebook, the town website, we've done tax inserts, and then we recently did a bingo card mailing that had a very big impact on the number of people who were coming. A lot of people still had that in their hand, or they cited that as the reason they had come down. So, why cardboard? Cardboard is too bulky to fit in the tote for a lot of people when they have a lot of things delivered. Obviously, more things are coming in cardboard to people's houses, and this is one of the highest value items for recycling. So, as it sits right now, we get a dumpster drop by Waste Management. We fill it up with cardboard, they haul it off, they charge us for the dumpster, but we get a credit for the cardboard that was inside of it. Glass is the opposite of cardboard. It costs us a lot of money to throw out, and the percentages that are in the blended value are set in the contract, so what it is what we have to deal with. Because glass is so heavy, it adds to our recycling costs, and again, if it's 54% more to recycle and it's a lot heavier, so we have been for probably the past year and a half advising residents to throw glass away if they're not using the collection center. And glass is not recycled. A lot of people think that. What they do is they take that up to the landfill, they grind it up, and they use it as a surface for the roads around the landfill. So it's not going in the landfill, it's going on the landfill. But so it's being repurposed, not thrown away, but you get the idea. So why a collection center? Because we're dealing with so many fluctuations in the recycling market under the new contract and the previously mentioned factors, we wanted to address those two key items, trying to recoup some of the cost of the or some of the value of the cardboard straight. So we're actually getting the straight value for the cardboard when they come pick it up. If there's 3 or 4 tons of cardboard in the roll-off container, we get credited at the full cardboard rate for that material, the tonnage. The other part of it is a place where the community can gather and interact. Everybody speaks fondly of the dump back in the day, and it is starting to take that kind of attitude around there. People can come, see each other, talk, but it's also a great way for us to relay information. We've done mailings, Facebook, the website, as I said, but we have a bulletin board on the check-in shack, and people will take pictures of it with their phone, or we have handouts we can give them, so it's a very effective way to communicate to the residents. With the addition of the special events, we've addressed a lot of the residents' needs for disposal. People have said for years that they wanted bulky waste disposal, they've wanted all these other things, so we have created a lot of these events to address those. One of the other things we've been looking at is a take it or leave it area where people may have items that are in good shape and usable, or medical equipment that they no longer need, things like that. That could be put in there. But the key thing is this lets us control our cost. In the long term, this will be something that the town can control, so we're not at the whim of the markets. While it's not gonna make us any money, it will not cost us as much money as it currently does to recycle. Here are just some of the events we've done and the proposed schedule for next year. We'd like to do 2 bulky events and 2 yard waste events to meet the needs of the residents. That's a lot of the feedback we've gotten. We did a mattress collection event, and we had 27 mattresses brought to us. And all of these events are fully covered by the residents. The people who are utilizing these services are paying for them. It's just more convenient for them to have it right there in the center of town. Just a minor note there, the collection center is closed when it's next. So, to the meat of it, where we're at after a year of doing this. As you can see from that graph, it's trending upwards. And the big thing is we're taking a lot of data from people, seeing how often they utilize the collection center. So 50% of the people who are coming come every week, or to every event that we have at the collection center. So every 2 weeks they come and bring their cardboard and glass. 38% every 4 weeks, and 12% more sporadic. The way we figured this out is the number of totes that we have distributed right now, rather than the individual household or the population of the town, the number of totes that are on the ground for the town. Of that number, which is 2,545 approximately, we have about 6.4% of that number are people who are coming down and utilizing the collection center. So after a year, I think that's a pretty good number. We look at a place that's had this in place for a long time as the town of Lee. They're kind of the gold standard on a collection center, and they also do trash there and some other things, but I would say our ideal number is 35 to 40% participation. That's what they get, and so while we're not there yet, I think after a year with the limited offering we have and still having curbside available, this has been trending in the right direction and getting a good following. So we have recycled just under 20,000 pounds of cardboard, and we're waiting on some feedback. We just had a roll-off picked up last week, so we're waiting for those numbers back. And about the same for glass. Of that, we have just under $1,000 that we've had credited to us. 3 of those, there's a lag with them crediting the account, but roughly it's about $1,000. So I also have an asterisk next to the dumpster cost, because there may be a dumpster in there that was set aside for the bulky pickup, and that should have been offset by those numbers. I tried to focus on the key numbers here so you guys weren't getting buried in dollars upon dollars here. But those are what we've put into it so far. But underneath there is the result of that. And I'm not attributing this solely to the collection center, but the goal here was to, I know it's the antithesis of what we've been taught all these years, but we wanted to reduce our recycling tonnage. And so between instructing people to put their glass into the trash and having the collection center, since we started this effort, there's been a 27% reduction in recycling tonnage over the past 2 years between those two. So when you factor how much money that saves us, it's hard to put an exact number on that, but we're at 54% more to recycle. We're saving quite a bit of money diverting it to the trash or recycling it this way. So where do we go from here? The cost of recycling is still going to be very variable, and there are a lot of items. You're kind of at the whim of, if you read our contract, if they decide that something is no longer profitable for them, they will no longer take it. So that can change on a moment's notice. So having a collection center allows us to take these things and have more control over that. If we want to make that successful and truly maximize the cost savings on this, it would be our recommendation that we suspend curbside recycling at the end of this contract. So 3 more years of curbside recycling, and then people can either utilize the collection center, or we can explore options to have just a pay-for curbside option for people. Again, continuing to publicize not just the collection center, but we have what we call the master diversion list, and that's just telling people where they can take everything from propane tanks to old couches to an old fridge. But all these things, it's keeping them out of the waste stream or out of the wood line. If people can't find a place to put it, they're going to find a place to put it, typically on the side of the road or the demoed road. So this allows us to take away the excuse that they didn't have a place to take it. We try to provide anything to people. It's fun for us when someone has something that we haven't heard of before, and we go and Lisa in our office will research and find a way to find a home for that. So one of the other ways that we can improve the income and increase capacity at this collection center is getting a cardboard baler. And this would remove the need for having any of the roll-off containers. We would actually be able to work with other communities to put a full load together. We have a storage space. We have storage shipping containers that we can store them in until we have enough to do a partial load with another town. So that would be a lot more money in our pocket for the direct cost of the cardboard, and that would remove the cost of the roll-off and the transportation charge. So the other thing that we've talked to briefly with the school is they're producing a lot of cardboard. So if we had a baler, we could potentially take that in at a cost to them and a benefit to us. So that's something that the baler would allow us to do. With regards to glass, because of our permit, it was easier to go with a roll-off container. But they do have people who will come onto your site after you have a certain amount of glass. They will come and grind it up, and that is something that can be used as road subbase or underneath catch basins. There's a lot of different uses for it. It's just kind of shiny sand at that point. It grinds it down where it's not sharp. It wouldn't hurt a tire or anything, but it would be a product that we could use. There would be a minor cost with grinding it up, but it would be a lot cheaper than what we're doing now. And then we could start taking other items of value, so plastics, high-density polyethylene, aluminum, things like that. So we would modify our permit so we could take basically all the things that are going into curbside right now, the town could take, and I don't want to say reap the reward. It's kind of like when you're gutting a house and you get a scrap dumpster job. It's better than spending over $240,000 a year for something. This should, after a couple of years, be self-sustaining. So the constraints, what would hinder us from moving forward on this? As I said at the start, this was a trial, and we wanted to present the outcome of that trial. So we have to decide as a town, the board's yay or nay, whether we're in or out on this, whether we want to continue to do this or whether we want to just continue on the way we've been doing the curbside recycling. The other constraint is volunteers, having enough people who are actively involved, who can supplant the DPW staff to run the center and be there to unload and operate the operation. The other side is resident participation. We're at 6% right now. I do think the way things are trending, the way the educational campaigns are going, we're getting more and more people every time. E-waste event,
There was 44 people who showed up to the e-waste event last Saturday, and at least 30 of those had never been to the collection center before. A lot of them came back with their glass and cardboard to participate. So those events are achieving their goal. And then as far as staffing, as I said earlier, if it's snowing, we can't really open it, but potentially opening it to other departments if they want to get the solid waste operator training that all our volunteers have. They could certainly come out and be a paid volunteer there. That allows them to fill that role if other staff is not available. Oh yeah, and the state shed land. This is currently in process. Whether we extend the lease or purchase the land, both have been floated by the Dam Bureau with the DES. So owning that property would allow us to make further improvements to kind of improve traffic flow and improve the operational side of things. Kind of square peg and a round hole right now, just making it work, but there will be upgrades to more efficient, flow better for the public that participates.
The last communication regarding the land was last week, and we were with them, which they did with let us know. The wheels are moving slow.
So what this matters for is our next contract. We were caught kind of flat-footed on the last contract where we only had 2 bidders who even submitted a bid, and we were left with what we had before us. So we have already been in contact with 2 of the municipal solid waste contractors other than our current provider, and the request for proposal is planned to be ready no later than 1 January of 2026. That will be, from that point, it should be quietly shopped around to any interested parties, but the award would be no later than 1 July of 2026. That is 18 months before the termination of the current contract of 1 January 2028. So if we are only going out to municipal solid waste, that opens up a lot more contractors for us, because not everybody has a recycling facility, or they have to contract with someone else, or they have their overhead on top of someone else's overhead of operating a recycling facility. So if we're handling that in-house, that makes things easier. If we do decide to keep recycling, curbside recycling, then we're probably going to have to back this timeline up a lot more, because there's a lot more that will go into that contract. If anyone understood that, but the blended value and everything that's taken me 2.5 years to figure that out. It's kind of all over the place sometimes. So. But the other thing with starting so early is we already have drafts of this RFP where there's a lot of things in the contract that are not for the town's benefit right now. And the earlier we get this out there and we're prepared, we can set a lot more of the conditions that we have to kind of take. But that is up to the board of selectmen how you want to proceed. So there's a lot of stuff in this bill, obviously. And as you were saying, it's taken you a while to get your arms around it too. And you deal with it a lot more than we do. So, but if we were to continue the center at the state property, it's really going to depend on whether or not we can get ownership of that parcel for long term. So, I mean, unless we had another site that we thought we could use if we couldn't use that.
What about the fairgrounds?
That is option B. The state shed was chosen just for its central location. And it's ease of access. It's not on 125, so that would be the concern, is traffic coming in and out of 125. That was kind of the big holdback on the fairgrounds. There is not much infrastructure there. The state shed had paved areas, a building, some lean-tos, so not that we're really utilizing all of that right now, but the raw pieces and parts are there at the state shed land.
Yeah, and even if we continued leasing the state shed for a while, which is not a bad idea, because it's relatively cheap to do that anyways, it would be a good transition. For certain, before we had to go to fairgrounds or any other property the town may own. And it's not like we do have land, but the accessibility and the ability to get the infrastructure in there is critical too. Why wouldn't we stop recycling as of January 1?
Like this January
Like
1?
this January 1. And just have this recycling center, the collection center. Is there any, before you answer, is there anything in our contract now with Waste Management that would preclude us from stopping recycling?
It would probably be better for a lawyer to answer that, but everything's negotiable, I suppose.
Yeah, but not with Waste Management. They're not exactly a talkative type of group. If you remember, when we were forced into signing this contract 2.5 years ago, it was not a pleasant experience because they didn't really care much of what we thought.
They were the best bad deal we could get.
That's exactly correct. It's a good way to put it. But we have some other options now for the recycling piece anyways. Does it make sense to go forward on just the solid waste contract for the expo when Waste Management expires?
When the waste management contract expires, because we're looking at a year's worth of results here, and I think with some investment, some further investment in that, we can get those numbers up where we are bringing those recycling numbers down, the cost down, and getting the participation level up at the collection center. If we are looking to proceed forward, we would have to do a new permit with the DES to take basically all recyclables. And it wouldn't be a huge deal, but it's not something, I'm sure you remember the issues we had just getting that approved in the first place. It got delayed and it took a long time. So their recommendation when we had gone up there and met with them was just do it once. Just put in for everything and kind of redo your permit at that time for recycling. So I think we would have to do that and start taking a lot more items, you know, the plastics and the mixed paper and the things like that, but also just get people in the habit of coming down there. I think if we just went cold turkey after 1 January, I don't think we're set up for that. I don't think we have the volunteer base. I don't think we have the trained personnel. And I think we'd have to get some more infrastructure put in place to make that successful. And I think the Solid Waste and Recycling Committee has been focused on January 1 of 2028 is what we're building this towards, so that it's successful and people can, you know, confidently leave curbside behind them because they know they can just swing down and drop off whatever recyclables they may have.
So you mentioned the town of Lee as kind of the poster child or the gold standard for this. Have they reached the point where they've stopped, or do they do curbside recycling or no?
They offer, so I believe it's through the town, but you can contract with their vendor, but you pay the vendor directly to come to your house and pick up your recycling. You
meaning an individual homeowner?
Yeah, you as a resident would pay for that.
Okay.
And it wouldn't matter whether it's business or resident? Right. Could a business do that as well?
I believe so, but I think they allow businesses to utilize their collection center as well, because they've got it to where they're only taking the valuable items. So, you know, valuable is a very, you know, you may make 3 cents versus it costing you $30, but it's not costing
And
you.
valuable today might not be valuable in 2 years, depending on markets.
Right. But we're part of an organization called the Northeast Resource Recovery Association, and what they do is they kind of they pool towns together. So if there's a semi truck going down to Chelsea with a load of cardboard, baled cardboard, they can link up, 2 or 3 towns together. They'll stop and they can do partial loads, but it's going to be a full load when it goes down there. And they coordinate a lot of that. So I think we spend just under $500 a year on that membership, and they've been an invaluable resource. Glenn was actually at the meeting that got me very interested in this, where they were just talking about how China was no longer taking our crap anymore. And they, this is all kind of damage control from that. So that was in 2015 that started, and the markets really have not recovered from that. They don't know what is worthwhile anymore because just the markets are so in flux from that. It was all built around one thing and everything's changed.
Why wouldn't we, or can we, do a recycling pickup once a month instead of every other week in order to get people in the habit of coming to the collection center? Just as an idea. I mean, if there's nothing in the contract to keep us from doing that, we're not getting rid of curbside recycling, but also as encouraging our residents to recycle at the collection center and not in the.
So I think that would be a renegotiation point with Waste Management, because the way it's set up is the curbside pickup is bi-weekly for recycling, and it's laid out for the entire 5 years, how that escalates. And
Forget about it, because we can't talk to them. They're not open to that discussion. But why wouldn't we do just a request for quotes instead of a request for a proposal? There is a difference from what I understand.
So if we just went out for municipal solid waste, we could potentially just go out for quote.
Okay.
And just say, we're looking for a tonnage number and we're looking for a pickup number. In our discussions with the other contractors, the RFQ kind of lays out a lot more what we want to see, how we want it dictated.
Correct.
If you just go out for a proposal, they're just going to throw you a number, but we want to have a lot more authority on the contract, and that is established from the RFQ. Or P, yeah, the RFP, sorry.
I thought it was the other way around. I thought the RFP was the contract that comes from, let's say, Waste Management, whereas the RFQ, we set the parameters.
No, we set the terms of an RFP. When we release an RFP, it's to our terms and conditions that we're looking for them to respond to.
No?
No. Okay, we got a difference of opinion on it.
Okay.
All right, we'll have to settle that.
We want the more stringent one where we're able to lay out a lot more.
We want to
of the
get what we
examples.
want. That's the whole point. So we'll get into that later. And not right now, but we know the differences. We just haven't got the right ones connected to the right one. Okay. But if we let's say we put out I'm going to go with the RFQ because that's what I thought it was, that we set the terms. We could do that in January, send out that RFQ. It's going to take a while for it to come back and to solicit enough bids and so forth and so on, and then add on recycling. Couldn't we do that as well? I mean, if we went strictly with solid waste collection, which is the primary responsibility of the town, would it make sense to do that initially and get that rolling so that we have a contract in place in 2 years from now?
I think, so in the conversations we had, 12 to 16 months is generally the accepted bidding time frame for the providers. They weren't really interested in anything beyond 24 months before the end of our current contract.
Our current contract ends in 2028, right? January 1.
Yes.
So we have 2 years and 4 months, basically
Right.
3 months.
And we want to be ready to roll on the street by 1 January of 26 is when we want to have this out
Okay.
for bid.
Okay.
But even if it's
POT,
soft shopping it.
Yeah.
But again, under the last contract, you could not find employees, you could not find trucks, and there were a lot of variables. So they don't want to overcommit or undercommit. It seems like 12 to 18 months is what we're hearing, but we want to be ready to go out the door at 24 months in advance and go from there.
And if you remember, there was a former colleague of ours as a board member who went out to Casella and a couple others trying to see if there was any opportunity to get another bid on the disposal contract, but it was too late at that point, because it would have cost us more to rent trucks from them to pick up our waste than it was to even honor the contract, as usurious as it was from Waste Management. That was still a better option.
They were
as
an
you said.
18% increase over their old contract, Waste Management, and then that other contractor was 20% over that 18%. So again, best bad deal we could get at the time. But yes, we had, I can't remember if it was 3 or 4 no quotes from other companies.
Right, right.
The other thing we're finding is there's been a lot of consolidation of the trash companies. So a lot of these, what appear to be mom and pop trucks going down the road, are not. They're owned by,
A larger company.
yes,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, and New Hampshire's not allowing any new landfills to open, and we're still closing. I mean, that's still a big issue up in Concord. And if we don't get our contracts in order, we're gonna have a real nightmare in trying to dispose of our own waste. And not just us in here in Kingston, but our state and other neighboring communities as well, so.
so one of the vendors actually does not a landfill, but they burn for electricity. So the waste management landfill, the turnkey facility up in Rochester, is actually permitted through 2032, and then nobody
After
really
that, who
knows what's
knows?
going to happen after that. There's a couple little tricks they can pull to extend that out, but eventually they're going to run out of land up there. So that is kind of the long-term view of this collection center, is the more we can divert out of the waste stream, when that time comes, when there are no more landfills in New Hampshire, we need to have as much pulled out of the waste stream, so it's just people throwing out the minimal amounts, so that we're at least owning the rest of our destiny on that.
Have you given any thought in working in conjunction with, say, like Brentwood or Fremont? Newton has their own transfer station, they're a whole other situation there, but to work with another community that may have volunteers that want to work with us in developing a collection center?
I don't know, I tried to have a regionalization meeting with the firefighters one time.
Well, that's not
I'm still a
gonna
little gun shy
happen.
from that one, so.
No, I remember that one, I was shocked.
I do think that's probably what it's going to come down to, and it's unfortunate. I think this is one of those things that the RPC or the county should really be taking a lead role on, because it would be a lot more ideal to have a collection center at the county property,
Yeah.
or, you know,
Because we have so many
a
small-
collective bargaining of multiple towns going in for
Right.
a contract, but there's just too many variables in that. I think, you know, this is our start, and I think if we can do this on this contract, the next one is where we can start looking at these other alternatives to get more buying power and more power as individuals.
Further comments from the board, questions? I know it's not public comment time, but I welcome the opportunity to hear from the public in the audience. I mean, we're not going to make it, the board is not going to make a decision this evening. It's a lot of information to take in, and I know we're going to want to look at the slides that Mr. Coombs had presented to us, so, but your input is important into our decision-making here.
And there's a lot of data I left out, so I can include anything you may have questions on or anything like that. Again, I want to credit the Solid Waste and Recycling Committee. Every person that comes in, we're kind of polling them and seeing how often they're using the facility. We're tracking all these numbers. Lisa's doing a great job of just, you know, keeping all this data together. So we want to allow the board to make the most informed decision on this as possible. So by all means, if there's something that you have any questions on that isn't covered in the presentation, we can absolutely get you the information or tell you we don't know.
Thank you.
My only
Chuck?
comment would be, one of the questions was about keeping it going, and I think that we definitely need to keep it going, because I think it has increased with the volume and the number of people coming. So other than I'm sure it'll slow up due to the winter, but I'd hate to see it closed down at this point, because you've worked hard for a year and it's getting better. We give it another year and see if the levels continue to go up or level off.
Yeah,
That would be my...
and I think Lee has been around for a while. Their center has been going for a while. It's not something that's happened a couple of years ago. Is that correct?
Correct. That, if everybody remembers, when the dump went away, we were doing sorted recycling, and then the worst thing we could have done was gone to the single stream, because that kind of got everybody into bad habits. But Lee did that from day one. They had that center, and they've been utilizing it. But we have a lot of people who are really interested in it, and you know, are really supporting it. So it's been it's better than what I anticipated as far as the participation numbers. Like any business, it takes a lot to get it going, but this is it's got a lot of steam behind it. So
I'm not saying I'm old or anything, but I remember when we used to go to the dump, and it was very much a very social event, and we miss that. Us older folks miss that congeniality and having the ability to drop stuff off or pick stuff up that someone else's trash was someone else's treasures, and that will foster a lot of community activity that the younger generation, your age and younger, don't understand that community binding that was available at the dump.
I remember the dump.
I see some of my other gray friends back here
Nothing
smiling
like
with
backing
me.
a car into the trench.
There you go.
Or coming in with a full carload and going home with a full carload. And, you know, it's the ultimate recycling.
Yeah, absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
one of the things that you are saying to us is that if a homeowner is not going to bring recycling material to the center, they're probably better off trashing it as opposed to putting it in the recycle bin, from a dollars and cents point of view for the town. Is that right?
It's cheaper to,
Yes.
for solid waste, that's correct.
That's what I heard,
Particularly glass.
particularly because of the weight.
Particularly glass because of the weight, yes, yeah,
Right,
yep.
okay.
And oddly enough, a lot of residents have made the comment that as long as we have curbside, they're not gonna go to the collection center.
Right.
Because it's right there.
Sure.
So we expect, if the decision is made to stop with curbside, the numbers will go up. Because people, I think, do wanna recycle, but it's so convenient at their house, they don't wanna load it up and go unless they have to.
Which is why I'm saying if we maybe reduced it to once a month instead of twice a month, that might help force some of that. I don't know, just a thought, just a thought. Other questions from the board? Well, thank you very much. I think that was excellent and gives us definitely some information to make some informed decisions, and I thank you for that. We do have an option now for public comment, and welcome to come forward, anybody that'd like to do that? On any topic, doesn't have to be on solid waste. Okay, yeah, I guess. Oh, sure, come on down, yep, have a seat, state your name and address, please. And make sure the green light is on, just leave it right in front of you, right there.
Hi, I'm Jim McDonough, 5 Ledge Road. I was here at the last selectmen meeting, and I was under the impression that Pedro was going to be here and submit some information on building permits and how they're affected by the state statute about having to be on a town road as opposed to a private road.
We're not, I don't believe we're ready to present that information at this
okay.
time. It's not a dead issue, I'm not,
Okay, no, I just thought, based on being here at the last meeting last Monday, I thought Pedro was going to be here today and we were going to talk about that.
and
So I misunderstood, I guess.
and so did I, because I did not follow up to make sure that he would be here and what we were gonna talk about. So that's on me, and I'll bring it up for the next board meeting.
Okay,
Well, actually, we have your information on file downstairs, I'm sure.
yes,
And when it's gonna be coming up to that meeting, we'll.
Oh, that's the best way.
okay,
That way, unfortunately, there's no miscommunication.
Okay.
You'll know,
Fair enough.
obviously, we have a schedule in front of us.
right.
I actually inquired if you were on the agenda tonight, and I was told you were not.
Yeah, I actually looked at the agenda yesterday, realized we weren't on it, but,
Okay,
When you come up, we will let you know.
okay, great.
thank you, thank you, sir. Anyone else at this time? Okay, then we'll go on to committee liaison reports. Laurie, you want to start?
The only one that I have is for the museum. They took a picture of the Boston Post cane and made a certificate.
Yeah.
And
they're gonna want, I think for each one, just the chair of the select board and the chair of the museum committee to sign, but they haven't decided when they're gonna do the first one. It's gonna be before the holidays, but they have to get the most up-to-date data from the town clerk. And then they wanna redo a display down in the town hall that will have the cane in it, along with like a picture of the certificate, and then a running list of the awardees, right? Like a little plaque or something like that, but.
So they're working on it?
They're still working on it.
Okay, that's
Yep.
fine. Thank you. Mr. Koppelman?
So this one actually comes from Lori and myself, because we attended for the select board the Kingston Lake Association meeting a couple of weeks ago. We talked about this at our last meeting, where some issues were discussed with regarding to safety at the boat ramp and a couple of things, but also the report, the final report of the watershed management plan, which still needs more information coming from them, as well as I think some things that we were working on. But one of the things that came out of the meeting with the Lake Association at that time, that meeting a couple of weeks ago, was the fact that the watershed management plan is something that the town should be interested in, and would probably, and we as a board would benefit from a presentation here at one of our meetings, or at a separate meeting, depending on how lengthy it was going to be. And so we wanted to bring that to the board's attention to see how you felt about that.
Comments? I could see. Go ahead, Chuck.
There's no reason why not to get more information if we need to get it, to see what, especially with the lakes that we have, let alone Kingston Lake, so.
My guess
Whatever
is,
might be, you might find out how long the presentation will be.
I think they're thinking about at least a half an hour for the present. It was a lot of data.
Yeah.
Like 20 to 30 minutes for the presentation, and then any discussion after that. So it won't be a short thing, and there was a lot of technical data.
Came in at 6 o'clock or something.
Might be incorporated with a regular meeting versus having a special night.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was an hour and a half long thing, then yeah, the special meeting might be.
So you're thinking maybe doing it at one of our meetings, but at a meeting where we would start like at 6 instead of 6:30?
Correct.
Doing that first?
Yeah.
Okay.
and that way the public come in and participate, listen in.
Maybe with Susan tonight, that we don't have a whole bunch on the agenda, right?
Right. Yeah, coordinate with budget committee, because that's the other thing that's going on right now, is we need to get through that. So if it's not time sensitive, then we can push it forward a little bit.
So we'll get back to the Lake Association, and
Yeah.
between them and Susan, coordinate a time that works?
Yep, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I have a go back, I just remembered.
No go backs.
No go backs. So for human services, part of that job is administering the food pantry. And currently the food pantry is in the office, and that creates a confidentiality problem when clients want to come in and access the food pantry when she's working with another client. And when they're waiting outside in the hallway, they can hear everything that's occurring in the office. So the director and I had some conversations about where we could move the food pantry to separate it, because Marissa's also going to have a volunteer that's going to help with the food pantry, so that would also kind of necessitate 2 spaces. So, we kind of threw around a couple of ideas, and we quickly said no to behind the stage because it's a safety hazard. We don't really want public back there. So we kind of talked about if we could, partitioning off an area in the corner as a temporary solution to see if that would work and make that the food pantry, because she also changed the hours, so it wouldn't interfere with any meetings. But the biggest concern is the confidentiality between people accessing the food pantry and other clients in there. And then just figuring out where we could relocate a space, probably, I don't even know how big the space is, like 6 by 8, it's not a lot of space. And that back corner is not used for anything but storage, it appears. So, you know, something that we could talk about.
Do we have a ballpark roughly of how many people may use this food pantry?
Marissa gives us a report every month that has that information, so I think she's working on her most recent report. But I don't know, because I don't remember what the last report said.
I almost hate to do anything now, only because we're going to reconfigure the town hall anyway.
Are we reconfiguring the meeting room?
Yes, that's part of that being considered.
This whole room? I don't think we're reconfiguring this room.
I don't think so.
The backstage.
There's refinishing of the floor, I believe, was in here, and Phil can confirm that or not, but, and then there was the building space behind the curtain for use.
Right. But that's for employees, that's not for people, because the stairs to get to the back are really dicey, right? So
Yeah,
we
but
would,
they have to be fixed anyways.
yeah, we wouldn't want, but this would, you know,
So-
be a temporary solution until we can figure out something more permanent.
Or maybe the solution would be to soundproof both of those two offices, because they both need that.
Well, I would agree with that, but we also, if we have people in the office and then we have clients through the food pantry trying to get into the office, so we really need to separate the location for that.
Do the people picking up the food, which come in and go into the room there or out on the table,
Yeah.
do they need supervision, which isn't the right word, but if they're in there, she sees what they're taking, she may list them, I'm not sure what to do.
Yep, she does.
If it's out here in the corner, they come in, assuming she knows they're coming in, would get it there where they'd have to wait to check out with her?
We would, either her or the volunteer, yes,
Well,
they
yeah,
would
whoever
still check
thinks-
out,
so
yes.
so is it there- even if it's in here,
Yes.
there would have to be some kind of control.
Yes, so if it's a temporary room, I'm just gonna say that, we'd have to have a door on it. So, you know, I'm thinking
you're
in my
thinking more
head,
of a-
just kind of office partitions with a
Oh.
door.
All right.
It doesn't have to be soundproof, it's literally just holding food.
You ever see a problem with that, Tom?
Let's,
Register issues, but,
There would be no roof, it would,
let's give that some thought. I don't know, I don't see us making a decision on that tonight. Adam, did you want to add something else in there?
Well, I'm just worried because one of the speakers is back there, so depending on where we put the partitions and everything, it just might have a negative impact on sound quality, which is already a bit of a problem. It could also impact the acoustics. It's just something, another thing to have in mind. I do want that to kind of slip through.
Nothing's going to happen overnight, and let's give that some thought and go, make a recommendation at a later point. There's a reason for that.
okay.
Okay. Any other committee, okay, liaison, I don't have anything at this time. Chuck, do you have anything to add?
Fire department doesn't have anything, I don't have anything. Conservation, nothing going on there. Budget committee, next meeting is on the 16th. There is 2 or 3 groups coming in.
Yeah.
We did have our first meeting 2 weeks ago and had a couple of groups come in there, and it seemed to go well, no big problems. And with Tammy, there is something that we're going to talk about under board business in a few minutes.
Okay, that was the, okay. Peter?
A couple things. Pedro downstairs is doing a great job. Now, I believe he's in his week having these applications online. It's drastically reduced the workload in that office. There are some small glitches that's increased the work to Tori as far as maybe some informative information that's going to be added to that website as far as payment.
Yeah.
Things like that, that'll be taken care of. We briefly touched again on the scout camp walk that we did. Last we heard that their attorney wanted a letter from us, the town, a list. We're not gonna entertain that idea. That's gonna go to council, make a decision on that list. We're still dealing with that. Our council is gonna review that request.
Okay,
So we're not gonna entertain that idea right now. We're just gonna wait to hear back from council.
okay.
So, and then the police department, the only thing I have on that, we all had an email today shared with us from the chief in reference to a applicant, and as we all read that and understand the struggle and the challenges he is going through for new hires, and he wanted to just kind of give us a heads up that there may be some overtime issues down the line to cover these shifts because of the hiring process is not going quite as planned.
Not like the last time.
Correct, not like the last time, and from what I understand, it's all over the state. Nashua, everybody, they cannot find any employees. So it's very difficult right now. So he's working on it, and they're doing a great job, but they're just not gonna hire anybody.
I have a question. So you talked about the cloud permitting and the payment. So how is that working right now?
To be honest with you, I don't know because I haven't been on it. This is
Okay.
a discussion with Pedro on that system, how
Right.
well it was working.
Right.
I think it's just the newness. There's some little glitches that are gonna be worked out, and that maybe a page needs to be added with a little bit more explanation on that. I'm not the computer person. I'm just
Right.
a messenger. So he's working on these, but he just tells me that the workload in that downstairs is drastically been reduced, and it's actually working very good, but they just wanna work out some of the kinks on that. But that's something that you would address with him. I asked him, he might be able to explain it to you better than I just do.
Well, I think in particular, I was thinking about the credit cards. Are we taking, does anybody know if we're taking credit card payments live yet?
And that's maybe one of the issues.
Okay.
We aren't, because we're waiting, the program is working with our credit card company to try to merge them. So they said it's just gonna take a week or so, more.
So the answer is not at this time? but
Not
they're
at this
working
time.
on merging it.
Yeah, we're working on it, yep,
So within a couple of weeks, it should be online?
yep.
So people have to come in to pay? Is that how
If
that
they're
is?
paying by credit card, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll go on to unfinished business, and first item is the cost of living increases for our 2025 budget. The board voted COLA a couple of meetings ago at 2.6%, and when that was reviewed, was it the wage matrix or the budget committee? One or the other? Budget committee. Budget committee suggested that we go with the northeast rate as opposed to the national rate, because the northeast rate for cost of living increases here in New England is higher than the national rate, and that would be more reflective of the costs incurred by employees. They still suggest that we go with the August number every year, so August of 2024 was 3.6%, and I believe Stacy Dion sent the link to all of us so you could see exactly where on the report it was, so you could verify that. So I'm asking the board if they would reconsider going from the 2.6 that we awarded to a 3.2. If that was the rate for 2024.
And that's recommended by the budget committee?
Correct. Discussion?
Well, since I was not there when they had the discussion about that, but I would make a recommendation that we move.
Chuck, you gotta put your mic
Yeah,
on.
sorry. Talking down to the table, too.
Yeah, I know.
Just kick me, and that's all.
I'm sorry.
You're out of practice.
Yeah. Been away too long. I would make a recommendation that we go with the, as suggested by the budget committee, with the information that we have, to go to the suggested northeast rate of 3.2%.
Is there a second?
Second.
More discussion. Mr. Koppelman?
So I have a lot of
concern about this. I mean, and just for everyone's information, there is also a New England rate, which is yet different from the national rate and the Northeast rate. And if we're going to hone in on a value, I would suggest that we might want to look at the New England rate as opposed to Northeast. However, I was the one who made the motion for the 2.6, and that is where my feelings are still.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, all those, and I assume you're ready for the question, then the motion is to increase the rate to 3.2%. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Laurie, was that a yes or a no?
That was a yes.
Yes, yes, so it's 4-1. Okay. The next item was the Nichols Building repairs in the budget spreadsheet of the costs that are in our packets. I know we asked for that from last week, and because there were a number of items that were being requested for repairs on the Nichols Building. Did you have a chance to take a look at it? There was a discussion of whether or not we should include it in buildings and grounds, like the other buildings. There was discussion of whether or not it was on the capital improvement plan. I know I questioned whether we wanted to do it all in 1 year or spread it out over the CIP.
Well, first of all, if anything that goes into the CIP has to be over $10,000 and have a life expectancy of more than 10 years or whatever the number is. So most of these additional items that are listed on the third page here don't even meet the $10,000 threshold, so they wouldn't go on the CIP.
Okay, the only thing that would be repair the copper roof above the entryway.
Right.
Phil, out of all of these on here, is the roof the biggest concern?
I think structurally, yes, that's the most pressing one. You agree with that?
Isn't that also an item that some previous work had been done and there were some issues with it?
Yes, there was a contractor who was supposed to have done this fully, and there was kind of a bait and switch, and the contractor transferred the ownership of the company to someone who was not as skilled. So references were checked, everything checked out, but the person doing the actual work was not the one who had done the previous work, so.
Because that was $56,000 for the roof repairs that now needs more repairs.
Correct.
And we did look into trying to recoup some of that, and Ernie was involved in the discussions, Phil was, I know I was, and maybe some others. To be honest, it was several months ago now, and I don't remember where we left off with.
Well, I think the rework that we were going off of at that time was substantially more than the initial work, was the quote we had received. And then after checking some more, I don't want to say references, but other construction companies who they recommended for slate roofs, this other gentleman came, and I believe the quote is $12,000, and he came more highly recommended than the initial quote.
Okay. So just, I think there's kind of 4 options here that I think we have. First option would be to put it in through a warrant article. And second option would be to use the infrastructure fund, which we have over $70,000 in interest that we could use with just a hearing. And then the facilities, I call it a facilities fund, but your building fund. What are they?
Infrastructure?
The building reserve fund.
Building reserve fund, yeah. And I'm not sure how much is in that, so I don't know.
There's just shy of 400,000, I believe.
400,000 there. Or, obviously, we do nothing for the year. So, I guess we as a group have to, because they want an answer as to what, either put it in their budget, or if we're gonna if you want the warrant out, or whichever way we decide to do it, we probably need to
So if I could just speak to this,
Sure.
the reason, so this was part of the memorandum that was signed when the Nichols building became our responsibility. And it does specifically delegate that Heritage is to prepare the budget for any repairs on there and advocate on their behalf. I have limited funds within the capital improvement line of my budget that goes to just kind of the day-to-day repairs of other buildings. In the past, when we've done major work, it's come out of the building reserve fund, but that has typically been done under a warrant article. That roof work was done under a warrant article. The stone work that was done outside there was also done under a warrant article, authorizing the select board to take money from the building reserve fund. That was just a past practice. It's not written anywhere that it has to take place that way, but I guess I push the issue just trying to seek clarification on where this should be accounted for, because this is not stuff that's anticipated in the day-to-day budgeting for DPW.
Phil, in your opinion, is there anything on this list that you feel, regardless of the price, I hate to say it like that, that if it wasn't taken care of, it could create more damage to that building if we didn't address it?
I would say the roof is the key thing that, if it gets, there is not an attic or anything up there, and obviously there's that beautiful ceiling work that could get damaged, so I would say that would be the priority to get taken care of.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'd have to agree with Phil, the roof, if things get wet,
That's what I was asking.
we don't have a choice. I think that needs to be done. I personally would rather have it under buildings and grounds. I don't like spending money here, but it needs to be done, and we do have an obligation, so I just should have it in the budget.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
So,
Prevent future damage.
but I would add just the roof. I'm not, the other three can, well, two really.
Yeah, the doors, I think the doors, obviously, we don't know what miscellaneous is, so the flagpole can wait, obviously, but the doors are rough too.
I think for the door, you're going to need someone kind of specialized, either a master finish carpenter or someone who specializes in historical restoration. That door is going to have to come off. Some temporary door is going to have to be put in place, because that's going to be out of there for 2 or 3 months while someone tears it down, rebuilds it. And again, these historic specialist guys are on their own planet with costing, so I couldn't even give you a number on that.
So, but that would be the plan for it, is to refurbish the doors that are there, not necessarily try to replace them or
No, I mean, the door is massive.
Yeah.
It's really heavy.
I mean, the door is heavy. It has very, very heavy hardware that holds it. I mean, the thing isn't falling apart necessarily, so I mean, replacing it I don't think is the answer, but fixing it before it gets too much worse is the answer.
And we don't have an idea on what miscellaneous is.
Well, that's to cover any odds and ends that not included in the other prices.
Well,
That's-
Ernie might have some.
Okay, Ernie, come on down, sure. Come on, Ernie, come on over. I thought that was, the 5,000 was odds and ends for like an over.
The question, Ernie, are there specific things you were thinking of that go into that miscellaneous category?
Well, that door is a kind of a big question mark at this point. We put $9,000 on there as an estimate. I'm trying to get some closer estimates from some people who potentially do that kind of work, and I haven't gotten them yet. So that was kind of just in there in case.
So that 5,000 is more contingency line instead of, or as opposed to miscellaneous.
Right.
Okay.
Contingency. I think I agree with Phil. The roof is, to me, the big issue that needs to be taken care of as soon as we can, because if that leaks, the interior of the building will be affected, and that would be disastrous, I think. The door as well, though, is, as Glenn said, that thing's 50 inches wide and 88 inches high and about 3 inches thick. It's got a lot of cast iron on it and all. So, and it is deteriorating, so it needs to be done fairly soon as well.
Well, that's a great fundraising thing, isn't it?
Pardon me?
Be a great item for fundraising.
That could,
That door, the roof, it has to be fixed, I don't have any question about that, but the door, and maybe if the museum friends could help out on that one.
you know, that's possible. I would say that I think somebody raised the fact that there is $400,000 in the building maintenance.
That doesn't mean we have to spend it all.
It doesn't mean we have to spend it, but for me, the experience of this town over the last 35 years in deferring maintenance has gotten us to the point that we're at now. And I think the more we continue to do that kind of thing, the deeper we're going to get in the hole as far as where we are with doing a catch-up to see what needs to be done to get us to a level where all of the buildings are in decent shape. So, I mean, I just put that forward. It's, you know, an option.
Thank you.
So the other thing that Chuck mentioned was the infrastructure fund, which is a chunk of the money that got set aside from when the landfill got closed. I mean, part of it was set aside for permanent protection for if it ever needed to be used to fix a problem at the landfill, so that can't be touched. But there is a piece that has been invested, and there are warrant articles supporting how that money can be used. It is at the select board's discretion after public hearing, but I think, and it's targeted for things like building maintenance and infrastructure. I mean, it says so in the warrant articles. But Chuck, you mentioned a number value. I thought there was more in there than that.
That's interest that we can.
Well, I know, but that's what I mean. We're not.
That's $70,000.
You can't touch the principal, but you are allowed to expend the
interest. Well, that's what Paula told me the
But
other day.
I thought it was, well, anyway, I thought it was.
So there's money there too.
There is money
whatever,
there.
We got to,
Yes,
whatever the money.
yes. And I did check with at least one other town in the local area that has historic buildings, which many of our towns do. And that particular town has something like the infrastructure fund. It was an endowment that was set aside by the town many years ago, and they invest the money, and the proceeds that it spins off from dividends and interest, they use for doing special repairs to some of their historic buildings, like their library, which is now their museum. So it's not an unprecedented kind of a concept. So.
Okay, what's your pleasure?
Again, my question would be, what's out of the two funds that we have that we know we can instigate fairly quickly, before we make a motion, what's the general consensus on which way to go?
My thought personally, we can look into the door. There's a couple different avenues maybe we can take with that, but I think it's a priority that we should look at that roof.
Just for the roof.
Just for the roof right now. Just for the roof right now to prevent further damage to the building.
Yeah.
Don't everybody speak at once. Which pile do you want to take it from?
So are we looking to, if we don't pull it out of, say, the infrastructure fund, but we're going to be doing it out of more of our regular building reserves or budgets, are we looking to put this into the budget for 2025? Is that where we're?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. To me, the roof needs to be.
Why would you have to put it, if we're going to take it out of the infrastructure, out of the infrastructure
You
fund,
don't have to. You could
it doesn't, you might want to put it in, take it out, but it doesn't need approval from the budget committee to do that. That's, in either case, it doesn't have to go through the budget committee.
All right, have we got time to fix the roof now? I guess that's the next question. If we're gonna do it, can we do it now before the winter sets in? No, I don't think so. So it doesn't matter which one. If you want to take it out of the infrastructure, let's take it out of the infrastructure. It doesn't impact the budget. We already have the money. Doesn't impact the tax increase, tax base.
When you say infrastructure fund.
That's the building, and the one that's 70,000 in interest.
Okay, well that would require a public hearing.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I was just asking for the general consensus. If that's the one we want to go with, then we can set up a public hearing for the next meeting to have it, and then get it approved, and then in the interim, we can start to get in some quality prices for exactly what it's gonna be. I mean,
I'd support that.
For the roof only at this point?
for the roof only, yeah.
Okay.
And
That doesn't rule out the door, which if you have better pricing, then we go forward with the door at a subsequent meeting. How's that sound for you, Ernie? Sure.
Yeah. I mean, we've got several funds in the building fund. Phil has the capital improvement fund. You have the building maintenance fund, which has about 300 and some thousand, I guess, at this point, which the Board of Selectmen are the agents to expend. And then you got the infrastructure fund, which has, I think, probably a couple $100,000 in it, which the selectmen have the ability to expend after a public hearing, so.
2, I think.
What's that?
I think it's 2 hearings.
I thought it was 1.
It might be 2 hearings.
I thought we had to go through that with the fire station. We had to have 2 hearings to tap into that. I would say if you're looking at any of them, the building reserve fund is what this is meant for.
You were tapping into principal out of the landfill fund. This is a different piece of that, which I think has different requirements.
I think you guys have a lot more leeway with the building reserve fund, because this is what it's meant for. I guess my only concern with that, and just so I can be upfront about that, is that was meant as, like, if the roof blows off of this building, we have a place to get that money from. It is well-funded at the moment, but most of the draws from that over the past 3 years have been for historical properties, and my concern is that we have frontline buildings. I'm not ranking buildings or what they're worth or their value to everybody, but there are things that we need to function, like the town hall, the police department, the fire department, the DPW, that, in my opinion, are first on the list. So I think we have enough in there to cover the roof on that. I think we just need to start looking at moving forward with these large expenditures. Where are they going to come from? If it's for historical purposes, maybe we want to look at a separate fund for the historical buildings that don't require a warrant article for the people to decide to pull that money out from the building fund. Just 2 separate pots of money to go, because my understanding of the building reserve fund, it was meant to be just an emergency fund for the buildings. If a heating system went or the roof blew off or anything happened, we had a place to get that money from. But I would say, as it's currently funded, it would be the easiest route for you, because you are the agents to expend, and I don't even know if you need a public hearing on it.
Not for the building reserve fund.
Correct.
Okay,
Ready?
that's where I'm going.
Okay, go for it.
But before I make the motion, I need to ask the question, is the 12,200 for the roof, is that a good number? Or do I need to build a contingency into that?
That's a good number. I got a number from background.
A brief background.
We had, as Phil mentioned earlier, major problems with the roof initially. We had somebody else look at it who came out with an exorbitant price to repair the roof. And we got another estimate from an individual who came highly recommended for, I think it's 12,000, whatever I have on there, 12,000 something to do the roof over the entryway, which is evidently the part that really needs to be redone. So that number is a pretty good number.
Okay. Keep in mind that that number was probably obtained a few months ago now. And
Glenn, anticipating that we weren't going to be doing the roofs this year, I asked him for an estimate for potential repair in 2025.
And that's the number you got?
So that should be a good number.
Oh, okay, very good. So I'm going to make a motion that we authorize the repair of the copper roof above the entryway of the Nichols building in the amount of up to $12,200 to be taken from the building reserve fund.
Second.
Further discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, so the roof gets done.
Thank you.
I think you may want to work on a more solid number for the door down the road. How's that sound?
Oh, absolutely.
I have two guys, shakes to shingles recommended for those front doors. I specialize in historic.
Okay. Moving right along, new business, we have one item. And it's a letter of resignation to the Kingston Board of Selectmen. I hereby tender my resignation as Director of Public Works for the town of Kingston, New Hampshire, effective 1 November 2024. I will be working with my Board of Selectmen liaison, Laurie Schwett, to handle any transitions planning in this interim. Regards, Phil A. Coombs. And I'm quite surprised by that, did not see this coming at all. And I certainly wish Phil best wishes in all future endeavors. He's done a lot for the town in the last couple of years, and I have to respect his decision to move forward.
I would echo that. I think that it's a real loss for us as a community. I mean, the job is a real challenge for sure. You know, Phil came into it taking a lot on in a very new role for him, and has done a really nice job putting things in place. So, I mean, we had a heads up about this after our last meeting. So this letter is just making that formal, but I would, hey, Phil? Before I make a motion to accept your letter of resignation, just want to make sure that you haven't changed your mind. All right. Any other comments? I'll make a motion to accept letter of resignation from the DPW director with sincere regrets.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Unanimous. And as I said while you were out of the room, Phil, I wish you best wishes in any future endeavors that you undertake. You did a good job for Kingston, and we were lucky to have you for those couple of years. Thank you. Okay, we will talk about that transition later under non-public, and then any decisions to be made will be made in public. There was an item, a request last week from Tammy Bakey, our town clerk tax collector, on purchasing some vote block tablets, right? Chuck, you're going to present that.
So, I guess you guys, I wasn't here, but you guys had talked about getting the poll pads and the possibility of taking it out of the Arbor funds. And again, she was talking with her today and asking the question of making a decision on that, being that the other, and it's the amount is $12,150, but I believe half of that's being reimbursed by the state. So we're looking at, and we get the exact figure, but we're looking at $6,000.
$6,050 to be taken out of ARPA funds.
Right, and you know, rather than trying to, because she already has $14,000 in the budget from last year for the new computers, the new voting machine. So
wasn't the discussion that we had to approve the total amount because the amount to be reimbursed would not be reimbursed till next year?
That's correct. We have to withdraw the $12,100 from ARPA funds.
Then the reimbursement is next
at some point in time.
Correct.
And with the reimbursement, we could buy additional ones, which you're going to need anyway. So I would say we should go for the full amount out of the ARPA funds.
Also, that ARPA funds, what's the date, what's the deadline this year Glenn would know, that if
December 30th.
it's December 30th,
Well, December 30, I believe, is the date where we have to have the money obligated.
Right.
And obligated means a contract or an order
An
placed.
invoice, right.
The money not necessarily spent, but obligated by December 30, right, Paula?
So one of the concerns is that, you know, obviously we need to do it, but we're also waiting to get the pricing for the front steps and that kind of stuff, which has been, in our minds, earmarked for the ARPA funds. And I guess my question is, and I don't, maybe Phil knows, Susan's not here, and I know I've been reading about the RFPs and the stuff. Has it actually gone out?
It did go out.
It did, okay, I just,
Yeah.
time-wise, we just, because we, you know, once we get it back, it's gonna take some time to
They're not due
pick
back
somebody.
until next.
I believe the 18th is when they're due, Chuck. We gave a 3-week window.
Okay. All right, so that,
I
I mean, we
said-
just wanna make sure we get
Yeah.
that, whomever, I mean, unless it's $300,000, they're not money, but.
But I still think we need to go forward with this.
Oh, no, I'm not, I'm just trying to
It does,
get
because
into it. I wanted to bring that up just to make sure that it was in this,
It's
in
in
the
the works,
process.
yeah,
So
they went
it's
out a
gone
week ago
So we get
Friday.
it back, and then we
Yeah.
gotta look at it, and so we should be able to, by the middle of November, be able to award.
Correct.
Have an idea what the price is, knowing what that
if
is.
not sooner, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So did you make a motion for $12,100?
I did.
Okay, and there's a second? I'll second it if you want, I don't care.
Oh, go
You
right ahead.
No, you do it.
No, I wasn't going to second
Oh,
it.
okay. All right, I'm seconding it.
Because my concern is that I really think we ought to have a sense for what the number is going to be for those steps, and if it means waiting another week, then I'm fine doing that, but, because if we use up all the money,
So
we have
to fix the
here's a
stairs.
question, I guess this is a question of my thought. So let's just say, I'm just using round numbers, we have $180,000 in the ARPA fund, correct? We get a price for those stairs for $197,000. Are they gonna look like that in 10 years because we can't do $197,000? Or are we gonna come up with $17,000 somewhere else?
We're gonna get the building infrastructure fund to kick in,
So
so.
long story short is we spend the $12,000 for a machine, that we're gonna be able to get $7,000 for it back.
But
Less than half price, then I would agree.
I don't know that we get the 7,000, we don't, wouldn't that $7,000 go back into the general fund? I don't think we get it where we can spend it. I don't think that's how that's
It
gonna
would go
work.
back in the general fund, in
Okay.
which case Tammy should probably put more money in her budget next year for buying more of them. We're not gonna have enough with what this buys, it's just a start, from what I understand. So either way, yes, it does go back in the general fund, and I'm gonna guess, and I don't know for a fact, that she would be putting more money in her budget to buy more of those voting blocks. Because we're gonna have to get up to speed to have them all on board, all of our stations on board with it. We're gonna be buying this every year, is what I'm trying to tell you, until we get fully up.
I think we should wait until we get quotes in for what the stairs are gonna cost. They have to be in within next week, and then by the time we evaluate it, we can wait 4 weeks before we answer this. We had earmarked that money for the front stairs.
And I
Yeah,
don't,
but I'm not gonna get in a contest on this one here, guys.
Why,
I
it
don't- I
doesn't
don't-
have
I
to
don't
be a
know.
Doesn't
contest,
have to be.
Ellie.
I don't know.
We're just having a discussion.
We are having a discussion,
Yes.
exactly.
I don't know what the timeline is for these,
For what?
for the ordering the pads. You know, whether a month is going to make any difference or not.
Right.
I don't think
Necessarily
so.
come up, I don't, you know,
I don't think it's gonna make a
I
difference.
don't think so, although I don't know for sure, but I think that Tammy said that she was hoping to try them out we only have one election next year,
Right.
which is the one in March, and so it's that time window that we're looking at.
Right.
I don't know what the lead time is on these,
I
but
don't either.
it is, she did say it takes a while to get them, obviously, but we still have, if we go to January 1st, we still got 90 days there to.
But we wouldn't have to wait that long, though, Chuck. I mean, bids are due on the steps on the 18th. We're going to open them. We're going to have a bid opening at our next board meeting, and then
Be the next board
we'll know what the costs are just by looking at the numbers.
That is true.
So let's
Let's just hold
let's
off
hold
on
off on it. I mean,
it. Let's withdraw
that's
the
right.
motion. It can wait.
Yeah.
It can wait. Okay, great. But don't lose sight of that, because we
Because
definitely
now I
have to
gotta
do.
go tell her that it's
Well,
wait, you know, I win my flak vest on.
Yeah.
You'll do it so sweetly, you'll be fine,
Either
Chuck.
that or get Pete to do it.
Well,
When he goes home.
No, that just needs to stay away from there. Another item that's not on our agenda is the TAN loan process. Paula, when you want to come forward, what Paula approached, tax anticipation note. And what Paula's asking us, and she will explain it, is that we don't know that we need one yet, but now's the time to set the paperwork together so that if, in case we don't have enough cash to pay the tax, our bills on time before the tax money comes in, we would take out a TAN note if we need to.
Yep, I've been working on this for a while with the bank, and most towns have a TAN loan set up, so it's kind of like an equity line of credit, I'd say. So you're taking money out ahead of getting the tax money in. So a lot of towns will use it if this time of year, if they need to pay the school, because the school is like the top priority to pay whatever you owe. So, and it's a long process. It takes like 3 or 4 weeks to get it approved. And once you have it, you only pay back what you use. So, and you have to pay it back within under a year. So if let's just say I asked for 2 months of school payments as our loan, that would just be set there, but I could say I only need to use 500,000, something like that. And that's all we would have to pay back. And it's just a way to have that cash flow, that extra cash available in case there's a cash flow issue. It's just emergency. But this is, I'm requesting for me to be able to sign the application so that it could be ready in case it's a just in case situation.
so I'm assuming there's no cost to setting it up.
Nope.
And if we had to borrow from it and then pay back, what is the interest rate?
I don't know yet, because it depends on.
I'm assuming there's a cost to this money.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's very, very low. That is what they told me. They didn't tell me what the rate is. It's very, very low, and I would end up paying it back. Let's say we borrowed it right now, I would pay it back once we got tax money in.
So let's say we set this up and it's there and it's waiting and it's ready to use. Would you have the authority to use it, or would you be coming to the select board for that authorization to use it?
I would come to the select board. If I had a tax bill issue, I would have to come to the select board.
To release or to borrow?
Authorize you to withdraw funds to pay whatever bills were.
So the authorization right now that you're looking for is to set it up.
Just to set it up, yeah.
We came close to needing to do that last year, although
Did we?
we didn't.
Yes,
We
very.
did not. We came very close, but we were able to generate enough funds through the collection of taxes that was not necessary, but it was close. And part of the reason that it's close is that we don't hold back enough money when we set the tax rate. And that's been coming for a while. They call it the overlay. And we have been doing the same amount, and I want to say $250,000 for the last 10, 15 years, which is nowhere near enough. And even Matt Angel, a former business administrator at the schools, has advised us to increase that. But if we increase it, it has a negative impact on the tax rate. And we won't know where we stand until we get to the end of the year and go forward from there, so. But this way, at least the paperwork is in place. It does cost us nothing to be prepared should we need it.
Yep.
I think it's a smart thing to do to have it there. Yeah,
And hopefully we won't need it.
and hopefully we won't need it.
Right.
Do we have any sense yet, at this point in the year, of whether or not we will need something like that?
Right this second, we're okay, but I don't know if we were to have a large expense or repair to something, then that reduces the cash flow. So I'll know more in a few weeks, really, if I'll be able to make the November payment, which don't ask me to do.
Which bank do we deal with?
Partner.
Partner. That's our bank for our municipal
We have partners in TD, but this would be through partners. Because that's the
still
one
have
we
the two
use
banks.
more.
Still, can I have a motion to authorize Paula to
So moved.
do the paperwork on the TAN note? A second? Second. Thank you. Further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, ayes have it. You're all set to go. Thank you. Okay, I have, got odds and ends. We signed we have more public contracts. We've got a couple of POs. We have a letter from South Shore Outboard Association regarding their fall regatta. Dear board members, the South Shore Outboard Association very much appreciate your cooperation for our event at Greenwood Pond this past weekend. Our event was a great success, and the use of Gideon Lodge's facilities, food by the Children's Center, and use of Pastor Josh's prayer and parking lot make it all pleasant and possible. Once again, the event was sanctioned by the American Powerboat Association and be insured by their insurer Hawk Race Consultants, as we defined in our letter earlier this year. Our event included participants from northern New York State, Long Island, New Jersey, New Brunswick, Pennsylvania, and Florida. The spectator crowd was fine, as it always is at this event. With its small-town New England setting and beautiful green, the Kingston Race Weekend has become one of the more popular stops in our circuit, and we very much appreciate the town granting us the opportunity to bring our event to Kingston. In appreciation of the town's support, our driver and crews generally donate many articles to the Kingston Food Pantry, and that support will continue beyond 2024. If you have any questions or concerns regarding this event, please contact me at your convenience. Signed, Larry Roberts, Commodore, SSOA. Very nice. That is very nice. We do have a non-public session, and I'll take approval of minutes, public and non-public. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve minutes.
So we got a roll call for non-public. We have,
So I'll make a motion to go into non-public session for RSA 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2. We've got all the.
see, I get two of them there, too, back to back. So you get 2 points to fill out. And so I'll take a roll call vote.
Do you have a second?
Yeah, Chuck did. Always Laurie? Yes. Glenn?
Yes.
I'm a yes, Chuck
Yes.
and Peter. Okay, did you want a 5-minute break at all? Okay.
That would
Take a
be great.
5-minute break, and then we'll go into non-public. We have a couple items. You have the assessing window issue you want to talk about? You want to talk with Paula, too?
Yes.
Okay, so, well, you want to start with Paula when we come back into session, then where you can head out after that, Paula? We're gonna start with, we have 3 items to discuss. First one will be with you, second one will be regarding Tory and assessing, and then third one will be Phil. I'm trying to do the shortest ones first and go from there.
So you're taking your break and then going on somewhere?
Yes, we took the roll call,
We're in non-public.
so we're done.